Are you ready to take your message, your business, and your life to the next level?
Want to learn from someone with more than a decade of experience, training tens of thousands of people from all around the world?
Hi, Cliff. This is Pauline from Auckland, New Zealand.
John from Calgary, Alberta.
Amy Porterfield.
Michael Hyatt.
Dan here from Dunedin, New Zealand.
Ray Edwards.
Mark Mason. Mike Stelzner.
Pat from Smart Passive Income.
It's Darren from Melbourne, Australia.
Now is the time to live the life of your dreams and do the work you feel most called to do in the world.
Welcome to the Cliff Ravenscraft Show.
Here's your host, Cliff Ravenscraft.
Well, my friend, welcome back to another episode of the Cliff Ravenscraft Show, and I have something that is a little bit unique as far as the kind of content I have been known to create over the last couple of years, and that is we're going to tap back into my roots a bit. We're going to bring back some of the old podcast Answer Man vibes today because I'm going to give you a gear review. I am going to share with you my newest, most favorite piece of podcast equipment, podcast gear. And it is unbelievable. Now, some of you are subscribers to my YouTube channel over at youtube.com/@CliffRavenscraft. And you've probably already seen the fact that within 24 hours of owning this brand new piece of podcast gear, I produced 2 videos on my YouTube channel gushing over it. My first one was an unedited first impression. I pulled this thing out of the box, hooked it up, and immediately got excited about the fact that this thing is really what it says it is. And it far exceeded my expectation. Now, you might be asking, Cliff, are you going to tell us what it is? Yes, I'm going to tell you what it is. It is the Zoom PodTrak P4next. Now, the title of this, the model, exactly how it's written, spelled out, all of that stuff will be in either the title and or the show notes for this episode. But this PodTrak P4next, I want you to understand this is not the PodTrak P4 or any other version from Zoom. And it's not Zoom, the company for your web meetings. I think if you're listening to this and you're totally interested and engaged with podcast equipment / gear review, and you're going to continue to listen to this episode, you probably know that Zoom is also the name of a company that has been around for quite some time in the digital recorder space, digital audio recorder space, and they do a bunch of other equipment as well. But anyway, I saw an advertisement for this PodTrak P4next in my Facebook feed several times during the month of November. And I'm not in a position where I need new equipment. I have thousands of dollars worth of gear. And if I had to guess, I've probably invested more than $20,000 in various different equipment when it comes to audio and or video production over the past 20 years that I've been producing podcast content. So I'm not in a situation where I need new gear. So why is it that when the PodTrak P4next showed up in my Facebook feed, did it capture my attention? Well, the first thing that captured my attention was that it was a video, and it showed an audio mixer / podcast recording studio all in one box at the size that would fit in someone's the palm of their hand. Not to mention the fact that it allows you to plug in 4 professional XLR microphones. It has the ability to plug in 4 different individual sets of headphones and independently control their volume. So it's got a headphone amplifier. I saw that it had 4 sound pads for bringing in pre-recorded audio clips. I saw that it operates on a pair of AA batteries, 2 AA batteries, or you could alternatively power the device via USB in multiple ways. So I'm going to get into all of that in just a moment. And if all of that wasn't enough, the fact that this device is only $179. And I'm like, that sounds way too good to be true. This thing has to be a piece of junk. Except for the fact that over the years, as the podcast answer man, when I was helping people through the successful launch of their podcast, many of them I recommended Zoom recorders, the H4Ns, the H4N Pros, and the Zoom H2s. And there are many different Zoom recorders that I felt were a good fit for the budget and or demands or needs for audio production for certain individuals. And so I had recommended many different Zoom recorders. And I personally have had a history where I don't want to necessarily recommend a piece of equipment to a client unless I personally have tried that equipment out. Now, it's not that I will never suggest equipment that I've never owned or tested out myself, but I let people know that ahead of time. Hey, I have zero experience with this. I've heard other people who like it, and this seems to be within the price range and the look and appeal of what you're going for. And so test it out, but just know I don't have any experience with it. But with the Zoom recorders, given that these folks were paying $2,000 to go through my podcasting A to Z course, and I had promised I'm here to make sure that you get exactly the production value that you desire and the equipment that's perfect for your budget and that meets all of your needs. And for me to be able to recommend audio recorders to those individuals, and if I'm going to recommend a Zoom H2 recorder, or Zoom H4N, or a Zoom H4N Pro, or a Zoom H6, I want to buy them and test them out. And the interesting thing is that Zoom has never sent me anything for free. Instead, I bought all of those recorders with my own money, opened them up, reviewed them for myself, used them in my own production. And one of the things is that every single Zoom recorder I've ever purchased, tested, and used in my own setup has been fabulous. So I'm like, this can't be right. The device that I am using, by the way, right now, this PodTrak P4next from Zoom that I'm using right here, right now, in the front seat of my car, this device contains about $1,800 worth of equipment. Now, not $1,800 worth of equipment in today's equipment prices, but if I go back to 2005, when I first started podcasting, and I began to look into what is it going to take for me to hook up multiple microphones and record a podcast with myself, my wife, and another co-host that was recording with us at the same time. And I also want to be able to bring in audio clips. And I also want to be able to bring in live callers into the podcast via Skype. I also want to be able to live stream the audio that we're recording live and the live call-ins and our panel discussion out to a live audience who wants to simply listen in. Yes, I was doing all of this in late 2005, early 2006. Even before live streaming was like a real thing, it was a desire of mine because we had this massive audience all around the globe who were interested in this television show Lost, and we had the Lost podcast over at lostpodcast.com. And so I wanted to do all of this, and I began to research, and then I'm like, oh, wow. So podcasting for me at the level for which I want to podcast is not going to be an inexpensive hobby. Because back in 2005, audio production equipment, audio recording equipment, microphones, mixers, audio devices, all of these things, there was no market for podcasters. Podcasting didn't exist before late 2004, early 2005. And in 2005, when I started podcasting, the equipment manufacturers, they really hadn't heard about podcasting yet. So I began to do research, and the next thing you know, I'm literally buying professional high-end equipment that is designed for live events for musicians, bands, churches, AV systems, and radio stations. So microphones, for example, the microphone that I'm using right now is the high LPR40 microphone. I have multiple of these, and it is my hands down favorite microphone of all time. But it is a broadcast audio quality microphone. And the microphone itself was like $350. Then you'd want to have a shock mount to keep noises from vibrations from your hands hitting the table or desk or whatever that it's mounted on, or if it's on a tabletop mount, you want a shock mount. That thing was like $75 or something like that. And I got the professional boom mic arm, and that was like $125. And then the mic cable, just a 6-foot mic cable, was like $20 or $30. A mixer that would allow me to plug in at least 3 separate microphones, that ran. At the time, I didn't go full on into Behringer just yet. There was a much less expensive version, but if I wanted the highest quality, something that's going to last, that's got good build, I can move it from location to location, I went with a Mackie mixer, and that was about $500. And then if I wanted to be able to set up what's called a mix minus, and I actually wanted to create 2 different mix minuses, I needed sound cards, additional computers. I needed to figure out how to teach myself the sub-channel routing and knob settings to be able to bring audio from a computer and then not send its own audio back out to the person so that the person didn't hear themselves in an echo. And learning all of this stuff, it was quite expensive. Oh, by the way, my wife, it's one of the things that I remember early on when I first set up this co-hosted panel discussion with my wife and our other co-host. I got us all headphones, but I just had my mixer. I plugged in a 3-way splitter, so a 1/4 inch plug, and then it had 3 female 1/8 inch plugs, and it was enough power. There was enough audio coming from the headphone jack of the mixer such that it would power, and we could all 3 hear what was being said in our microphones from the mixer in the headphones. The only concern is that my wife says, "Cliff, that's way too loud," and our other co-host was like, "That's way too loud," and I'm like, "Really?" Because it sounds good, and so I'd turn it down. And it's like, "Yeah, that's good," is what she would say, and then I'm like, "I can't hear myself." And so I'm like, okay, I need to solve for this. And back then, again, there was no consumer market for audio gear at the time. And so I began to research headphone amplifiers, which allows you to take the headphone jack. And of course, all of this required extra cables. So a cable from the headphone jack into this headphone amplifier, which then gave you 4 different headphone outputs with 4 different volume controls. That device was $150 to $200. So all of these devices, oh, by the way, I forgot, a digital audio recorder. And back then, the digital audio recorders, again, not a lot of consumer devices at the time. And I just remember I probably paid about $350 for a digital audio recorder that recorded to an SD card. So just imagine this. We're talking like lots of money. But just the equipment, the audio equipment for the recording and everything that was in this Zoom P4next that is sitting right here in front of me. All of that added up to about $1,800. And today, just this week, I paid less than $180. 10 10% of what it used to cost. It's just like, or a tenth of the cost. It is unbelievable. And that's exactly what I thought when I saw this on Facebook. I'm like, this is unbelievable. And so I instantly said, okay, it's Zoom. I trust the brand. I'm going to try this out. And by the way, I had seen the Zoom P4. The Zoom P4 came out a while back, and it also claimed to be a podcast studio all-in-one box. And it came out to kind of meet the demand that Zoom was seeing, that people were getting really excited with the Rodecaster Pro setup. So I knew that was out there, but at the time I had a Rodecaster Pro, and eventually I ended up getting the Rodecaster Pro 2. And that's basically been the devices that I'd been using when I moved away from all of that analog equipment and went into an all-in-one podcast studio box. I moved first to the Rodecaster Pro, and then I moved to the Rodecaster Pro 2. Now, the original Rodecaster Pro, I loved it so much. The last time I got this excited about podcast gear was when I first got my original Rodecaster Pro. And my excitement about that grew so large that I'm like, oh my gosh, I want to be able to take this with me when I go traveling, when I'm going to do all these speaker gigs. I can just pull this out in my hotel room and I can record anywhere. And I'm like, this is going to be amazing. The only problem is I didn't want to keep, I was traveling so frequently, speaking at so many different conferences. Every time I came home, I had to set it all back up and put it back. Now, granted, it's all in one and it just doesn't require as many cables as it did before, but I didn't like the setup. And also, I wanted to be able to do mobile recording in my car. I'm actually recording in the front seat of my car right now. I'll explain why maybe in just a little bit, but that's because it's a side conversation. And maybe I'll put a little bit of a personal update about what's been going on in my world and share with you some exciting stuff and on a personal level. But let me stick with where we're at right now. Podcast gear, podcast equipment. How does this device make sense in a world where I already owned all this other gear? So I got so excited about that original Rodecaster Pro that I bought a second one. And one was going to simply stay in the box, and I would take it with me everywhere I went traveling, and one would stay in my studio. And I'm like, oh, this is amazing. Then my wife and I had not been recording consistently together after a couple of years. We would record every now and then. She'd just come into the studio. But we had decided to work on a new project back in the day, and we were going to consistently record. And we wanted to actually create a separate studio space for that. And so one of the things that happened was I pulled my recorder that was meant for traveling, and I put that into a separate space. And also that's a space where if Stephanie wanted to record a solo hosted show, which she's been doing her Thriving Mosaic podcast for years now, if she wanted to record a solo hosted show, but I'm on a coaching call, she would like to have that set up so that she can go into that studio and have her own space to record a solo hosted show. So my portable Rodecaster Pro ended up being primarily set up permanently in a second studio location. But then I was still traveling and I still wanted all this stuff. And I'm like, I ended up buying a third Rodecaster Pro. Now, these things, when they first came out, the Rodecaster Pro, it was like $500, $600. But it was worth it because of the amount of production. If you haven't been following me for a while, if you don't know this, I've been podcasting for 20 years here in December of 2025, which is coming up our 20th anniversary is coming up on December 16th. I'm super excited to celebrate 20 years in podcasting. I have over 55 individual podcast shows that are my shows, and I've published over 4,800 podcast episodes. So I am a prolific content creator. And when I get the inspiration to record, I want to record. I don't want to wait till I get back to the house. I don't want to wait till I get back into the studio behind the microphone there. I want to record when it strikes, that inspiration strikes. So for me, it made a lot of sense, and not to mention the fact that I had earned an incredible amount of income from podcasting. All different aspects of income generation from podcasting. So for me, it made a lot of sense to invest in the 3 different devices. Eventually, I ran into a glitch that happened multiple times on each of my original Rodecaster Pros. And that would be like every 80 to 90 or every 90 to 100 episodes that I would do, I would lose an entire recording due to some audio glitching. And what would happen was I would hear everything perfectly in my headphones, yet when I went to get the audio off the SD card, I listened to it back and there was this artifacting digital glitch sound and the audio was unusable. You couldn't recover it. You couldn't run any process on it. It was unusable. And my podcast episodes are generally an hour in length. And so I would lose an hour-long production every 100 episodes or so. It was pretty consistent that I would lose one out of every about 100 episodes. And you might think, well, Cliff, that's not that bad. Well, when you're recording as many hundreds of episodes as I am, that it's not acceptable. So eventually I reached out to Rode, and they allowed me to replace one of my Rodecaster. Actually, they allowed me to replace all of my Rodecasters, but they gave me an offer. It was way outside of warranty. When I finally got fed up with this happening after it involved a guest that I didn't want to inconvenience. I mean, if it's a solo hosted show, I put up with it several different times. Or if it's a co-hosted show that my wife and I did, I put up with it several different times. But when I've invited a high-level guest to be on a show and that audio recording did not get recorded the way that it was intended to be recorded, and it's glitched and I didn't have a backup recording, this is not acceptable. And so finally, years outside of my warranty, I went to Rode and I said, this has got to be, we got to do something about this. I had done support tickets, they'd done firmware updates, but it never solved my issue. And honestly, I do know that the issue was the fact that I never turned my Rodecaster Pro off, and they seem to believe that it's something inside of their circuits. If it gets so hot and it's been running for a very long time, that leads and contributes to this issue. And if I would have just turned it off and let it cool down for 15, 20 minutes and turn it on, it may have never occurred. But that just wasn't my standard operating procedure. And so, again, it happens so relatively infrequently that it just bit me when it bit me. That's all I'm going to say about it. So I eventually went out to Rode and they said, Cliff, here's what we'll do. You're years out of your warranty on these devices. But we also know how many of these devices you've sold for us. We'll give you an offer you can't refuse. We will basically sell you this. And they sold it to me at cost, which was an incredible deal. And they said, you can trade in your original Rodecaster unit and you could get the Rodecaster Pro 2 for this price or the Rodecaster Pro Duo for this price. I'm like, well, let me send one of these into you, see how I like the Rodecaster Pro 2, and I'll let you know. Well, I got the Rodecaster Pro 2 in, and I hated it. I have never once recommended the Rodecaster Pro 2. I have nothing but terrible things to say about it. Well, except for the fact that, by the way, I still have it hooked up in my studio on my desk, although that may change within the next 24 hours, because now it's been almost 48 hours, or just over 48 hours since I've owned the Zoom P4next. And this device right here might replace my Rodecaster Pro 2 on my desk. And by the way, the Rodecaster Pro 2, when it was first released, it was $700 and some odd dollars, like $750. I think you can get them right now between $580 to $600, but still, it was up there. And the problem that I ran into there are two significant issues. One is that somehow, some way, there's just every now and then I would hear this. It picks up some sort of static. Like if there's any static anywhere close to this device, you hear it in the headphones, and sometimes it gets into the recording. It's just like it's electrostatic. If you are in the wintertime and you've got a little of that static build up and you touch something metal, and you know how you get zapped a little bit. Well, I would hear just little creaks like that. It's like it was not pleasant. That okay, maybe you just sit still. Maybe you don't do this. Maybe you clear out all the you try to go in and clean up some of the static in the air. You can do some things, maybe. But the biggest problem I had with the Rodecaster Pro 2 is there was like a few millisecond delay, or a what do you call that? A latency between what I was saying in the microphone and what I heard in my ears. And that wasn't there in the original Rodecaster Pro, but the Rodecaster Pro, the original, had the glitching. So what happened for me was I'm like, okay, do I go back to the original Rodecaster Pro that will basically pretty consistently glitch every about 100 episodes, or do I use this Rodecaster Pro 2 that I paid a little bit of extra money for and that I traded in one of my original Rodecasters, and yet here's the good news: it doesn't glitch, it doesn't fail. One of the reasons why there's latency in me hearing my voice monitoring my voice in the headphones, and I hear my voice back in the headphones a slight couple of milliseconds later than what it is because now I'm actually hearing what's actually being recorded. And so if there was a glitching sound, I would hear what the recorder is recording. And that was actually an answer to what I want, but I didn't know that it would actually put this latency into the headphones. And so my question was, do I reliably record with a device that is going to glitch about every 100 recordings? And by the way, can I just say that it's not just every 100 podcast episode recordings. I also do sometimes, as I've done as many as 12 90-minute one-on-one coaching calls per week, all of which are using the Rodecaster Pro, recorded on the Rodecaster Pro. Also, I was doing 2 or 3 90-minute mastermind groups on a consistent basis. So when I'm saying that there's like 20 to 30 recordings a week that are between an hour to 90 minutes in length. So again, it's about once a month this was happening to me. I just wanted to stress this, okay? So what I decided to do was the Rodecaster Pro 2 consistently recorded the audio. And as long as I don't scoop my chair on the chair mat and pick up a bunch of static electricity that's in the air, then as long as I will just tolerate, and that's the key word, as long as I will just tolerate the millisecond delay in my ear, in the monitoring of my voice, then everything's fine. And that's exactly why I would never recommend that you buy a Rodecaster Pro 2. And it's why I've never talked about it other than to at one point say, I got this and here's what I think about it. And it's not good. All right. So yeah. Anyway, now fast forward, it's been a couple years and I've been tolerating my Rodecaster Pro 2 and I use it a lot. And I also still have 2 of my other original Rodecaster Pros. One is in a special studio for Stephanie, and sometimes we will record together in her studio. And also one is in a Pelican case that can travel with me everywhere I go. So, I have there have been many times I've recorded a podcast episode in a hotel room or sitting right here where I am in the front seat of my car when inspiration strikes. And the thing is that I use the Rodecaster Pro original for that. And the good news is that has never glitched on me when that device hasn't been on for, let's just say, days or weeks at a time without being turned off. I know I should turn it off, but I'm just sharing with you my experience, not my optimized everything should be perfect. So I deal with it. All right, so I pull out my Rodecaster Pro. It's perfectly fine. The only thing is the Rodecaster Pro original unit allows you to plug in 4 XLR microphones. That's great. That's what I would want, at least 4 ports to bring in 4 different microphones, just in case I wanted to do a large panel discussion. But the thing is that it's a big footprint. So this thing is about, I don't know, if I had to guess, 14 to 16 inches wide, about 12 to 14 inches tall, and it takes up an entire Pelican case. Also, to power it, it's mainly powered by an AC power brick that goes to DC. But then I have to have a separate cable. You have to buy a separate Rode cable to allow you to power the Rodecaster Pro original unit by a USB power brick. So if you've got one of these big, huge power bricks that you use to charge your phones and stuff like that, power banks is what they call them, I could power that. The only thing is with the original Rodecaster Pro, I had to actually have PD power. So you had to actually have the higher wattage power that comes out of a special USB-C port. So you couldn't just use any USB power bank. You had to have one that had power delivery, and it had to have enough juice coming out of it to be able to power the Rodecaster Pro original. The thing is I had all of that, but that's even more stuff. That's more space. And it's not that big of a deal. Before November 2025, before I saw the Zoom P4next, I didn't think that I was missing anything. But then all of a sudden I'm like, wait a second. This thing is the size of the palm of my hand. It has everything that I need and or use inside of the original Rodecaster Pro, and I would even argue most everything that I use in the Rodecaster Pro 2. And it runs on on 2 AA batteries, or it can be powered by any USB source. This is pretty amazing. And it's $179. This has to be too good to be true, but it's Zoom. So I bought it, and I got it. And I pulled it out of the box, and I instantly recorded a video, and I was so pleased. So I want to tell you what this device does. Already, I've talked to you about the fact that it is small. The footprint is, if I had to guess, that's probably about, it's almost square. And I would say 1 to maybe 4.5 inches by 4.5 inches. Maybe it might even be 5 inches tall by 5 inches wide. All right. It's only about 1.5 inches to 2 inches wide at the XLR ports, and less than an inch, or maybe right at an inch in the front where the headphone jacks are. So this thing is made of plastic. I will say that it is all plastic. But a lot of Zoom equipment is made out of plastics, and I've always had really good results long term with Zoom equipment in the past, recorders anyway. And so I'm like, okay, well, it's super, super light. The interesting thing is that I have not, I have not yet put in any AA batteries into this. I've only ever operated it off of the USB power supply. Now, I thought that I needed a power bank because there is a separate USB-C power port on here. And I'm like, I wonder why that's there. And I was thinking, it's like, okay, well, one USB-C port is for the ability to hook up to your computer. It will do mix minus, by the way. It does do multi-tracking. I want to share with you all of the things that this does. But the first thing that I just want to share is just how small it is, and it's so easy to power. You could power this device, I have learned, off of the USB-C port of your computer. So you do not need AA batteries in the device at all. If you are going to hook this up to your computer as an audio interface device, and you're going to plug in some XLR microphones, and you're going to have a webcam, and you're going to go do live streaming and stuff like that, this device, the USB cable plugged directly into your computer's USB port has enough power to power this device. That is amazing. Not only that, but I have now confirmed that without any AA batteries, I can hook this USB cable from the PodTrak P4next. I can hook it up to my iPhone, and I can record a screen recording on my iPhone where the audio is coming from my Heil PR40. And when I go to play it back, it's coming through my headphones on the P4next, because now the P4next is an audio interface device for my iPhone. And the USB port on my, because I have the iPhone with USB-C, the USB-C port on my iPhone powers the Zoom device. All right. My iPads also will power. So all I have to do, I could just plug in the USB-C cable from the P4next, plug it into my phone, boom, audio interface device and power all in one cable. All right. And same with the computer or laptop. I don't see a need for me to ever put AA batteries in this thing. Now, if you wanted to, could you? Yes. Now, currently, I'm not hooked up to a computer. I'm not hooked up to my iPhone. I'm not hooked up to an iPad, and I have no AA batteries put into it. But I do currently have a USB power bank, and it's just any normal USB power bank, not some special one that's required that I needed to have for the Rodecaster Pro to have power delivery. But it's just powered right now, and that's how I'm powering this. So many power options. I love that feature. I love that functionality. And I do also love the fact that if you are going to use AA batteries, it's got smart technology. I went through the settings, and it's going to ask you, are the batteries that you're using in the AA battery compartment, are they alkaline, nickel metal hydride rechargeable batteries, or lithium rechargeable batteries? Because lithium's the newest craze in rechargeable batteries, and by the way, they're awesome. If you haven't seen these AA and AAA batteries that have USB ports on the battery, USB-C ports, not micro USB, USB-C ports on a AAA battery, it is a total game changer, and they last much longer, in my experience, than the nickel metal hydride batteries. But anyway, this device is smart enough to know that there are three main types of batteries that are out there, and it also knows how to pull that power from it to make sure you get the longest amount of time from those batteries. So it's important for you to tell it what battery type you have in there. So that's something that I love that it has. So I'm done talking about the fact that this thing is easy to power everywhere. The fact that this thing is small, which I've already shared with you, just the size, it fits in the palm of my hand. It's so incredibly light. But because of that, I don't need a Pelican case. I don't need a separate Pelican case. I could literally I just kept the box that it came in, and I put the device back into its box with a USB-C cable. And I close the box up, and I throw it into the top little pocket of my backpack that I carry with me everywhere. Literally everywhere I go. And now I don't carry a Heil PR40 with me everywhere I go. I do actually have a separate Pelican case that has a very heavy-duty tabletop mic stand with the high LPR 40 shock mount, a windscreen in front of the high LPR. I mean, I've got the whole mic setup here, and all of that is in a separate Pelican case. Now, before I had a Pelican case that had a big, huge, heavy tabletop mic stand, the shock mount, the PR40, and also it had my headphones and an XLR mic cable in it. And that was all in one Pelican case. And then I had my Rodecaster Pro in a separate Pelican case. However, now, if I wanted to, one Pelican case, I could carry around my high LPR 40 with major heavy-duty mic stand, and I could literally put my P4next in that same box. Technically, an entire recording studio in a single Pelican case, or any alternative to the Pelican cases. But I could also do the same thing just in my backpack now. I could take some old style Audio-Technica ATR 2100 dynamic microphones, a couple 3-foot XLR cables, and I could just roll up, put a couple pair of TRS headphones that just stick in your ears, and I could literally have an entire portable podcast studio in my backpack, all of which 2 or 3 ATR 2100s, 3-foot XLR cables, and a couple rolled up earbuds. All of that would fit right in the top pocket of my tech backpack that I take to every conference. Oh, and I could also have those little foldable, collapsible, totally portable tabletop mic stands. Not the super heavy duty one that I'm using right now, but I could actually take all of that. Now that might actually go into the bigger compartment of my thing, but I'm just trying to say that this thing is so lightweight, so portable that now it doesn't make sense. I mean, before I could go and I could, record into a digital audio recorder and all this other stuff, but the fact that this thing is the entire podcast studio in a box, so now I have the ability to hook up to a computer and do mix minus. I just confirmed the other day I was recording an Ecamm Live, and I confirmed that this thing is an audio interface device, and so I was able to speak into my high LPR 40, and I'm streaming live out to all of the different platforms using Ecamm Live. And then not only that, I had confirmed that the Ecamm Live has Zoom integration, so I confirmed that a guest could come in via Zoom. I could hear that guest in my headphones. That guest would be recorded onto the recording in the SD recorder on this device, and also it would go back out to Ecamm Live. With the mix minus turned on, the Ecamm Live is not hearing the audio from the Zoom that I'm hearing in the P4next, because Ecamm Live automatically has integration with Zoom that it brings the Zoom guest in on its own channel. And so if it didn't have mix minus, the guest's voice would be heard twice with latency, and it would have that little bit of an echo effect for people who are listening out there in live stream. So the fact is that this USB audio interface is awesome, and it does have mix minus. You can turn it on or off, because there are some cases where you might not want the mix minus. You might want the audio to pass that's coming in from a source to go back to the source. All right. So you have that functionality. I want to share with you also I have not used this, but I do know that the firmware that came with mine has multi-channel USB interface. So this is something that you could do on the Rodecaster Pro as well, and that is you could hook up your USB cable to your computer, and you could go into Adobe Audition, and you could do a multi-track recording, and you could record every single track. You could record each microphone separately, the sound pads separately. You could do the USB incoming audio separately. There's a TRRS jack. You can bring in audio from your phone via the old school TRRS. There's so many different things you could do with this thing. And you can send all of that and do a full multi-track recording, or you can tell the USB device to just be this standard, master stereo audio over the USB, and that's what I do. Now, when it comes to the digital recorder that's built in, well, Zoom has been around doing digital audio recorders forever, and I trust their digital audio recorders. I really do. And so far, I have not had any reason to not trust this device. I know it's only been just over 48 hours, but it's been amazing. And it's got a micro SD card slot, and so I just threw a 64 gigabyte card in there, and it records right to the thing. So it's amazing. I have the ability to record my preferred way, which is a single stereo master audio recording in WAV format. But it does have the ability, just like the Rodecaster Pro, I could, on my SD card inside of the Zoom P4next, I could record a multi-track recording. So it will record all of the inputs in separate channels. That's too much post-production for me. I try to make sure that all of the audio coming in as it's being recorded is cleaned up so that there's not the requirement of cleaning that up in post-production, which is why you would want to have all of those things separate. So I guess maybe if somebody coughs into another microphone while I'm talking, I could go, if I had a multi-channel recording, I could just take that person coughing into their microphone off. But what I would do is if that person coughs, I would just stop where I was, wait till they're finished, and then I would start over the sentence, and I would just edit that part out in post-production. It's much faster than all of that multiple channel stuff. For me, personally, that's my own preference. But I want to let you know, if that's not for you, you can record into multi-track. Now, it just occurred to me that one of the things that I'm not sure if this has or not is the ability to put a marker. So I don't know if that's the case. It's got a power button, it's got the record button, and it's got a play/pause button, but I don't know if I can actually put a marker on here. And I will say, I do like to put markers in my recordings when I know I've just started over. I want to be able to put that little marker so I see it in my audio editing software. It'll be interesting to see if that's here. I'm going to try something. There's a play/pause button, and I wonder if I hit it, I think it might just pause the recording. Okay, so I did confirm just now that pressing the play/pause button paused the recording because the big recording button was blinking red. And I wonder if I hold the play/pause button, if it does a mark. And the answer to that question is no, it doesn't. I wonder if I hit the menu button. Nope, there's nothing there. Okay, I'm coming to you in post-production right now. As I may have already said in this episode, I had not yet looked at the owner's manual once. This thing is so intuitive, so easy to figure out, that I never took the time to check the owner's manual. And of course, as I was recording at this point in the episode, it occurred to me, I wonder if I can actually do a marker. Well, it turns out that I can, and I learned that by doing a little bit of search in the owner's manual after the fact. And it turns out that if you click on the menu setting and then go into the system menu, there is an option in that menu that says play key in record. So basically there's you have 3 different options of what can happen when you press that play key or the play/pause key when you are recording. 1, by default, it is pause. So it's only pausing. And then if you hit the button again, it continues the recording where you left off. The second option is that when you press it, it will pause the recording, but it will also put your marker there. And then the third option, and the one that I actually chose, is to mark only. I have not found myself in a position where I want to actually pause a recording in the middle. and I've had that option available to me for 20 years now, and I've only ever used that function 2 or 3 times in all of the content I've ever done. I use the mark button all the time. So I set it to the mark button, and now in future recordings, I can click that little play/pause button. It will continue to record as normal, but it will just drop that little marker in there for me to easily find those marked spots in post-production. Anyway, back to the episode. The other thing is that this thing does have 4 sound pads built into it. So when you heard the audio jingle, which I haven't played my audio jingle in so long, but I did today just to test out this in real production. And so when you heard that audio jingle at the beginning, it actually played from the P4next into the recording. That was preloaded. This right here is preloaded. That is preloaded in here. So I can actually do 4 different pre-recorded sounds on the sound pad into this, built into the recorder. The display is nice. It's very easy to understand and see the audio levels of each channel. It has a limiter in it so that if you turn the limiter on, you're not going to peak your audio. It will automatically keep you from peaking, which is really nice if you get really animated and enthusiastic and start saying something really loud. So that's nice that it has it. It also has some other audio processing in here. It's got a compressor. So I'm going to turn this on, and it's going to be punchy, and it's going to bring up the ambient noise in the car here. But here we go. This is me with the compressor on. So now I'm sitting here. Now, if you are listening to this with headphones on, I'm going to stop talking for a second. And you can hear, matter of fact, let me turn the car on for a second. And I'm going to open my windows, although it is cold out here. All right, so check this out. I'm now sitting in the front seat of my car. I've got the compressor on. You probably hear a little bit of wind noise. I want to get that wind noise out. But there's an AI noise reduction button. So do you hear all the ambient noise there? So all I have to do is I press this little AI noise reduction button, and I have to be silent for just a few seconds until it stops blinking, because what it's going to do is, without you speaking, it's going to hear what sound is in the background, and it's going to use AI to actually take those frequencies out, and then once it stops blinking, you can start speaking. So all I'm going to do here, I'm going to stop talking for just a second, and it's going to analyze all of this background noise. And there you go. So I have just turned on the AI noise reduction, and the windows are still open. All of the audio that was there before is still here now. And when I'm not talking, you do not hear that ambient noise. Watch, I'm going to stop talking, and I'm going to turn it off after just a second. There's that audio. All right, now I'm going to turn the compressor off. All right, so now because the compressor is off, it's not as amplified, and so but you can still, if I stop talking, you'll hear. It's still there. All right, so I'm going to do this without the compressor on, but with the noise reduction. So here we go. All right, so there we go. The only thing is as the noise reduction. Let me turn the noise reduction off, because there was actually a bit of wind, a crosswind that came through the car here. So give me a second here. I'm going to do this one more time. Okay, so there you go. Now this is my voice without the compressor, but with the car windows open, and it gets rid of that background noise. Just imagine if you're recording, let's just say if you're doing a live show in front of a studio audience. I'm going to turn off my noise reduction, and I'm going to roll up the windows of my car. It is currently 41 degrees Fahrenheit outside, and now I'm tempted. You know what I'm going to do? I'm going to start my car and heat things back up here. So yeah, we can do that. Let me turn that and turn the heat up. There we go. So by the way, now that I have the heat on, the car is running, you may or may not be able to hear that in the background, but I'm going to turn the AI noise reduction on. Let's see if it works. Okay, so there we go. I have the heat almost blowing full blast air, and the AI noise reduction was able to monitor the actual frequencies of sound that was producing, and it just basically cut and filtered all of that out. So now when I'm talking, watch this. I'm going to turn this off again. Do you see the difference? I mean, come on, this is pretty sweet. All right, I'm just going to leave that off. But you have a compressor in here. You've got a limiter in here. You've got AI noise reduction if you want to use it. Personally, I'm not as big of a fan of the compressor voice as I once was. AI noise reduction, I don't know that I will use that, although I think it's cool that it has it, and I can see use cases where it would be incredibly valuable. So it's nice that it has it. The menuing system the menu is so easy to navigate. Every feature is so intuitive. I have not yet opened the instruction booklet to learn how to do anything. And so far, everything I've wanted to do intuitively, it was just easy to figure out, including loading the audio clips onto the sound pads, setting each independent sound pad's audio levels so that they're just at the right level. I mean, it was just absolutely a breeze. So yeah, there's that. 4 XLR inputs. It's got great preamps. Somebody asked me, Cliff, how is this compared to the PodTrak P4 such and such? And because there's a couple of different models that were out there before this one. And I said, I have not had experience with the P4 before this one. Any of the other devices. However, I have heard other people report that the preamps in this device are really good. And I will tell you, I'm powering a dynamic Heil PR40 right now. And the audio quality, my gain control on that XLR channel is only at 1 o'clock. So it is doing an incredibly good job with the preamps. And it does have phantom power if you choose to use condenser microphones. If that's something that you do, then it's there. The headphone audio quality is really good. I use my Sony MDR 7506 headphones. The audio sounds great. No latency, by the way. This device, unbelievable. So right now, sitting here in front of me, I have a Heil PR40 on a shock mount on a tabletop mic stand. I have a special little desk shelf that attaches to my steering wheel. I have a 3-foot XLR mic cable. I have my headphones plugged into the front, and I have the PodTrak P4next, and I have a USB cable plugged into a little USB power bank. And I'm recording a full-blown podcast episode right here, right now in the front seat of my car. And it's almost warm enough that I can turn this up. Boy, I did that for you guys to open it up and to demonstrate the AI. But boy, that got it really chilly in here. So this is my brand new favorite piece of equipment. I mean, all of the things, the fact that it's got a built-in audio recorder, Zoom audio recorder quality. It has soundboard for 4 SoundPad pre-recorded audio clips built in. It's got a 4-channel audio mixer with really decent preamps. It's got a 4-channel headphone amplifier. It's got the ability to power off a AA's if you want to, or any USB-powered port will power this thing, even an iPhone and or an iPad. This could be an audio interface device for your iPhone. It could be an audio interface device for your iPad. It could be an audio interface device for your computer. You can record your podcast audio locally onto this device while simultaneously streaming on Ecamm Live, and it's got the mix minus, and you can bring in Zoom. You can use this for your interface device for your Zoom calls. all of this, but it's got the limiter, it's got the compressor, it's got that AI noise reduction. All of this for $179. That is unbelievable. Yeah. That is why you're getting this kind of content from Cliff Ravenscraft today. It reminds me of how excited I was when the first Rodecaster came out. And it reminds me of the old days when I found ways to solve my technical demands for what I wanted to be able to accomplish. When I first discovered how to do a podcast mix minus, I was this excited. When I first figured out a digital audio recorder like the Edirol R-09 or the Edirol Roland R-05 recorders. I mean, there are times in my life when a piece of equipment for podcast audio comes along and it answers so many issues that I've experienced, and it does it so wonderfully. And even in the past, when the price has been like $500 or $700, I'm like, that is worth it. But when I saw this for $179, I'm like, this seems way too good to be true. But I'm here to tell you, it's not. And I love the Zoom PodTrak P4next. I know for a fact that I have the intention over, it's currently Wednesday, November 26th as I'm recording this. When I get back into the studio today, I am going to unplug my HiLPR 40 that's in the studio from my Rodecaster Pro 2, and I'm going to plug it into this device. I'm then going to unplug my headphones from the Rodecaster Pro 2, and I'm going to plug it into this device. And I'm going to unplug the USB cable from my computer, and I'm going to plug it into this device. And for the rest of my calls today, I'm going to do a 1 hour mastermind call this afternoon, or this morning/afternoon. And I'm going to do a 90-minute coaching call this afternoon. And I'm going to see how that goes. If it goes the way that I pretty much about 99.99999% sure that it will, I probably will order another one of these so I can put it in my backpack. All right, there you go. Why am I in my car? I put a video out on YouTube, and I was demonstrating this yesterday from the front seat of my car. I did a live stream because I wanted to test out some more of using this device. Is it going to be able to live up to what my standards are? And I have high standards for audio quality and also the complexity of what I want to do. And I did that, and it demonstrated that it would do all of those things. And one of the comments that came in, I shared the link to that on Facebook, and somebody says, Cliff, why do you have a HiLPR 40 in your car? And I wrote back, I'm like, I have a question for you. I'll answer your question if you answer my question. My question for you is, why do you not have a HiLPR 40 in your car? I mean, who doesn't want to have a recording studio everywhere they go? So one of the things that is a part of my life in various different seasons is an early morning routine that is a very specific early morning routine. And it typically always gets restarted if I gotten out of the habit of doing it right around the time change when we do daylight savings or whatever. We go back to daylight standard, whatever we do in the fall. When you fall back an hour. So let's just say I'm at a place where I'm used to getting up at 5 or 5:30 in the morning. Then all of a sudden the time is going to change. And next thing you know, wow, technically my body thinks it's 5 or 5:30 in the morning, but it's actually 4:30 in the morning, 4 or 4:30 in the morning. And so what I do is I'm like, okay, let's go back to this routine that I know works for me. And that is getting up at 4:30 in the morning, and I drive and get to the gym. I'm at the gym between 5 and 5:30, and I sit I drive to this back parking lot, and this place where I'm sitting right now in this back parking lot is up on a big, massive hill, and it overlooks all of these other hills here in northern Kentucky, rolling hills. It's beautiful. It's gorgeous. And when I get here at 5 o'clock in the morning, it's pitch black, absolute darkness. And then I get to see the sunrise. It's such a serene, quiet space. And I sit here and I will read, or I will journal and take notes on something that I'm reading. I will journal and do self-reflection. I will sit here and do prayer and meditation. I sometimes will outline a podcast episode or write an email newsletter to my audience, or I will engage and interact with some potential clients that I've been nurturing relationships with. I will reach out to current clients and ask, how are you doing with what we talked about last? These are the kinds of things that I will do. And I will sit here for a few hours, and sometimes inspiration strikes for me to not just outline a piece of content, but to fully produce it right here from the front seat of my car. And so that's why I love the ability to do this. It's not something I do all of the time, but when the inspiration strikes, it's nice to be able to do it. And that's why I've always made sure to carry in my trunk a Pelican case with my high LPR 40. And previously, I also carried a case with my other Rodecaster Pro original unit. Well, I don't need the other Pelican case anymore. Instead, it's being replaced with the PodTrak P4next. And this morning, here I was. I did not intend to record this episode of the Cliff Ravenscraft Show today. In fact, I had a different topic planned for my next episode, but that may come next. That's what I wanted to share with you here in this episode. And I'm sure this is probably going to go into the podcast Answer Man podcast as well. Which, by the way, I need to record a little bit of an intro for that, and I can do all of that. And I could do all of that before I go in and do my workout. Anyway, hope you have a great day. I have already, as a result of doing 2 videos on YouTube and sharing some stuff on live stream, and it went out to a bunch of places, I've already had more than 10 people tell me they instantly, once they watched my video, went and bought one. And so I want to hear from you. Did this audio episode inspire you to go buy a Zoom PodTrak P4next? And if you want to use my affiliate link, there's a link to it in the show notes, but my 4% from Amazon purchase isn't it's not much. So you don't have to go and do that if you don't want to. But if you wanted to use my affiliate link, certainly there's a link in the show notes. But I do want to hear from you. Did this, whether it's this podcast episode or one of the videos that I've created so far, have you purchased a Zoom P4next as a result of what I shared? I'd love to hear that you've been influenced in that way. And I highly encourage those of you who are already consistently producing podcast equipment, having one of these things to go on the road and do interviews with a couple of portable microphones, by all means, throw that in your bag. Now, somebody's asked me recently, Cliff, what microphones do you recommend for portable use rather than carrying around a high LPR 40? And I'll answer that question real quickly. I haven't bought a lot of new equipment in many, many years, and the portable microphones that I use are the ATR 2100 microphones. They're not in production anymore, but that's what I use, just a dynamic XLR microphone. And I think they were only like $67 at the time. And the audio quality is nearly as good as this high LPR 40. So I throw I might throw 2 ATR 2100s, phone windscreens over top of the microphone in front, 2 XLR cables, 3 foot in length. And now I would put the Zoom P4next in there and make sure that I have a USB cable and probably a USB power bank and or plug it into your USB port on your phone or your iPad and or your computer to power the thing, or AA batteries. I mean, you can do that. And then the other thing is somebody else says, okay, Cliff, so what if I needed to buy? Well, I will put links to a $99 Rode mic that Rode made a dynamic mic that looks professional, that's only $99. My friend Frank Lipsky says they're heavy, but the size looks right. So I'm going to put links to what I put in my answer to that question in YouTube. I'll just put in the show notes here. Also, I don't have any specific tabletop mic stands to tell you about, but there's a link to a search for tabletop mic stands, and you can find portable ones that will collapse and all that stuff. I hope this has been inspirational to you. If you're already a podcaster, I highly encourage you to get one of these to go in your travel bag. PodTrak P4next. I don't know how many of you will replace your Rodecaster units with one of these. I'm seriously considering it. It's almost a certainty to replace my Rodecaster Pro 2 because it's wintertime. Static is starting to build up in the studio again, and I'm really interested in putting an end to the toleration of the latency of monitoring my voice in my headphones. That would be awesome. And I think that's it. Oh, and if you have not started creating content because it's just been, you don't want to put thousands of dollars into podcast equipment, but you also don't want to just record into your internal microphone on your computer. Well, quite frankly, I want to say you may not need the PodTrak P4next. You could get just a USB microphone, plug it into your computer, and record into software. That's probably the least expensive way for you to go. And I would encourage you to get a microphone anywhere between $100 to $200. Plug that in. And if it's USB, that's fine. USB, I would encourage you to look at, I think Rode has a $199 microphone that is both USB and or XLR. So you can actually do an XLR connection or USB connection. That's one of the reasons why I like those Audio-Technica ATR 2100 microphones. I do recommend dynamic microphones. It doesn't pull as much of the room ambient noise. And you want to be up close to that microphone, but not in front of it. Anyway, I'm done being the podcast answer man. In fact, I am going to tell you that I'm super excited to share with you my enthusiasm for podcast gear when it comes out, and I couldn't not share this. I don't have my podcast answer man jingle queued up on here because I these days I'm known as the Mindset Answer Man, which, by the way, before I wrap up, I will just simply say, if you are looking to enter 2026 with renewed vigor and absolute clarity about what you're creating, if you are not super excited about the results that you are experiencing in your online business, in your content creation, in your interaction with the community that you're building, if you are not fully satisfied, I would love to help you figure out how to get to where you want to go. I do business strategy and mindset coaching. I typically work with people usually on a 1-year commitment basis. And those packages start at $15,000 for 1 year of one-on-one coaching with me. However, I'm currently offering for the Black Friday special, if you listen to this episode, let's just say before the second week in December, if you reach out to me, I will still offer this to you. It is $1,500 for 3 90-minute one-on-one sessions that you can use within 90 days. We could meet once a week for 3 weeks or once a month for 3 months, or any combination of 3 sessions within 90 days. Also, this Black Friday coaching offer, I will also include access to my Free the Dream course for those of you who are in need of some mindset strategies and how to manage your emotional state and how to create behavioral changes that will last a lifetime. And also, I will give you access to my Building an Online Business course, which contains my 11-step framework for how to successfully monetize your expertise. Most people get out there, they have created a podcast, they've built an audience, they've been investing countless hours for sometimes months, many cases years, a few times over a decade, and they are not consistently generating a profit. If you're not making at least a minimum of $10,000 a month every single month, then you have missed out on one of the first 7 steps in the 11-step formula for how to create an online business. And the reason I know that is because if all of those things are true, I know that you are currently on step 8, which is creating content and growing your audience. You do not start there. That's the reason for the problem. And I can tell you right now, there have been times in my season and throughout my career where the income kind of ebbed, kind of dipped down. And every single time that's ever happened, when I get down to evaluate it and I go back to this 11-step, it's like, oh, well, that's very clear. I did not validate this product or service. I did not actually have an exact ideal customer that had been validated, that I have an exact ideal customer who has a problem that they're aware of, that they're willing to pay to have solved, that I can and want to solve. All of that's required, and that's just one of the first 7 steps. So if you're interested, $1,500, you get access to my Building an Online Business course, which is the business strategy framework side. And then that's knowing how to do what to do, how to do it, and in what order to do it. That's all the business strategy side. And then Free the Dream is the mindset side, which is really where it's like, okay, I know what to do. I just seem to put it off. I keep procrastinating. Well, this is going to help you figure out what's causing that to happen and how to get beyond it. Building an Online Business course, Free the Dream course, and 3 90-minute one-on-one sessions with me without any obligation for a long-term relationship for only $1,500. If you're interested, email me today, cliff@cliffravenscraft.com. Again, cliff@cliffravenscraft.com. Until next time, I encourage you to take everything you do to the next level.
Mindset, answer man.